Rabbitohs Radio Podcast, the number one source for everything South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Welcome to the off-season edition of Rabbitohs Radio Podcast. My name is Grant Chappell. I'm joined by my loyal co-host and friend, Darren Brownie Brown, and Big Les from Big Les's Rugby League Podcast. What's doing, boys?
No, not too much, boys, Les, chaps. It's good to be back. Clear the mind after probably a disappointing season, and we'll talk about that going forward. But we're pretty close to talking about 2025 as well.
Yeah, I know. Next season, getting closer. Not too close yet, but we are looking forward to that next year. Obviously, not the best year for us this season, but definitely something to look forward to. But I tell you what, boys, what a final series we've had.
Unbelievable. Look, to think, if someone told me 6 years ago that a team was going to make 5 grand finals, win 4 on the trot, I would have told them, look, get yourself down to a rehab centre and get yourself sorted. You've had too many drinks and drugs. So, yeah, but absolutely mental what they've been able to achieve, Penrith Panthers.
Yeah, and to be honest, chaps, their form wasn't great going into the final series, was it? I probably thought Melbourne were the favourites going into the final series. They deservedly won the minor premiership. They were outstanding all year, and Penrith just had something missing. Even though Cleary was out injured, he didn't play many games through the regular season. I thought Melbourne might have had the edge on them, but geez, what a performance in the grand final.
Well, I was even saying on my podcast, like going into the finals and every single week, it'd be the same sort of story. Like Penrith have been good in this final series, and they've definitely improved from where they were. But Melbourne were always just that little inch better every single week. And then you get to the grand final, and it just flips on its head. Penrith go to a completely new level. I mean, Isaac Tungo, who had a very up and down year, puts in one of the better performances that he's had of his career, and probably gets very close to getting that Clive. Liam Martin just goes berserk. Nathan Cleary, another big performance, 200 metres. Just an insane final series. And it's almost like Penrith have just baited every other team, making them think that they're not as good. And then they get to the grand final and bang, they just turn on the switch.
Look, Liam Martin. Is there a player in the competition that plays with that desire and that passion and that aggression? I think he's on his own. I think he's out there on his own. The way he takes a game with a scruff of the neck, I think he did in game 2 of Origin. And obviously what he did in the grand final, winning the Clive Church. I don't think there's any deny there. I thought maybe Isaac Yeo wasn't too far away.
Yeah, he was outstanding, all through the final series. And like you said, chaps, Liam Martin, what a player, just a typical country boy. They've got a lot of country boys in that particular squad, and for them to win 4 in a row is something special. But I want to give a credit to Ivan Cleary as well. The game plan that he came into that game with in the grand final was to tire the forwards out, their middles. Early on, throughout the whole game, they turned the ball under and aimed it towards the middle. Harry Grant came up with plus 50 tackles. I thought it was a smart move from Ivan Cleary to play the game that way. And Penrith are a team that really stick to their processes, aren't they? You've seen that the year before when they only made one mistake in the grand final. They got behind by 16 points and they didn't drop another ball. And they just stuck to the process, and they knew if they just did what they practiced, the opportunities will come. And outstanding game plan from Ivan Cleary into that grand final.
Ivan, but also Nathan, probably didn't stand out as much throughout the game. You look at the stats after it and then obviously rewatch it. He was unbelievable himself, and Jerome Luai, I thought, carried themselves so well, and their game plan, just the way that they, went through the processes of tiring out those forwards, as you said. Nathan Cleary's kicking game out of yardage. It was just so well thought out. The kick chase, everything was just on point. I mean, Paul Alamotti, if you told me that he was going to win a comp at 19 or 20 years of age, I would have laughed at you, because he was at the Bulldogs, who weren't going well at that stage. Goes to Penrith, and all of a sudden he's a grand final winner. Just insane.
Paul Alamotti has been a superstar since probably the 14, 15 years of age. I think he's one of the only 15-year-olds I've ever seen play SG ball since they changed the rule. They had to get an exemption for him to play, and he was one of the best players in that competition then. But he just sort of took a slow path to get to where he wanted to be, and maybe the change of culture, change of team, different voice. I think he wasn't training that hard at the Dogs. He wasn't. Desire had gone, and to go out to Penrith and whatever they do out there, the systems they got in place and the way they train and the way they stick together for the majority of the game. I thought he just about had his hands on everything. He did that little turn your back play to get the first try.
Yeah.
He scored that try with the three guys pushing out from outside in after Liam Martin took the ball off. And go and have a look at the final play of the game. Who caught the ball? Crossfield kick from Hughes.
Yeah.
It was Olamoti again. He had his hands on just about everything, and an outstanding performance for. He's only a baby, mate.
Yeah, I know.
He's got a lot of growing to do. Great, outstanding recruitment there from Penrith Panthers.
Yeah, look, we can sit here all day and talk about it, and just about every player had a big impact. And another player that I want to mention is Scott Sorensen. He was out for 6 weeks leading into the grand final, passed a fitness test the day before, and came out and played 70 minutes and had a big impact. And some of his carries and his defence was outstanding. Just like you said, chaps, what they do out there, they come together. They're a great group. And look, who says they can't win 5? I read an article on Ivan Cleary and Nathan Cleary the other day in the Telegraph. Ivan Cleary's got a book coming out. It'll be one that worthwhile to read, let me tell you. But after reading that article, they can win 5 in a row just from what I read. What Ivan says and how he brings them all together.
So who are they losing out of that squad, Les? Let's recap this and see if they can. I know the depth coming through.
I mean,
Luai's pretty strong.
Luai is the obvious one.
And Taruva.
And Taruva, obviously going to the Tigers. I think that's going to be huge. I honestly think that a lot of people are underestimating Luai obviously leaving and how big of an impact that is. Obviously, Nathan Cleary gets through a ton of work, but Luai always puts the icing on the cake. His running game is so good. He takes a lot of pressure off Cleary when Cleary needs it
Does
too.
a lot of the kicking early in a game, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Lets Nathan sort of warm into a game.
Yeah.
The switch play just before half time where he was on the left hand side of the post and just threw this big switch play and Nathan had them all coming up and he hit Liam Martin short. No, you got to give credit to Luai in that play, don't you?
Once again, Ivan Cleary said they have never run that play all season.
Yeah.
That type of play, just a switch play. They've never done it all season.
And Luai said, "Let's go now."
Yeah,
he could see he's seen something.
That's right. Yeah, and he really stood up with Luai this year, hasn't he? Like we said earlier in the show, Cleary was out for a big part of the season with a couple of injuries to his shoulder, and he really stood up, Luai. And, that's what he's going to have to do at the Tigers. But, outstanding. What a great player and what a great system out there. Look, Nelson, I think Big Nelson was a big loss for Melbourne. Him not playing, they get a lot of second phase, Melbourne. Late offload. He's got probably one of the best late offloads in the game, I think, Big Nelson. And losing him going into that grand final was a big loss because they didn't have
They had
that
to play
punch.
Wishart in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Kamikamisa played 17 minutes, had 21 tackles in 17 minutes. He was on pace for nearly 100 tackles in the game.
It was on his haunches after 15 minutes because they, once again, like we said, they kept turning them under and making them make tackles. And Christian Welsh, the week before only played 12 minutes. So I don't think Bellamy had confidence in him. And once he lost Nelson, he had to play him. So, look, great grand final. Obviously not one of the greatest spectacles, but in terms of Penrith, just relentless. They just keep doing what they do and what they think works.
Listen to this loss sheet over the past 2 years, 2024 losses, and then obviously losses going into next year. Stephen Crichton, Spencer Leniu, Jamin Salmon, Jack Cogger, Tom Jenkins, Chris Smith, Eddie Blacker, Zach Hoskins, Sania Taruva, Jerome Luai, James Fisher-Harris, Isaiah Yongi, Taylor May.
Did you say Kickout?
Oh, that's
Kickout as well.
Yongi,
yeah.
Kickout as well.
Yeah, look, and like we just said, boys, it's the system that they've got. They've just got players coming through their junior pathways. And we've said it here before on the show. I know Phil Gould is at the Bulldogs now, but what's happening at the Penrith Panthers in these days has got Phil Gould's fingerprints all over it from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing at the Bulldogs now. But look, full credit to the Penrith and their systems out there. And look, but did they lose anything? Blaise Talangi's going there. And they've signed someone else.
Papali'i. Yeah.
Papali'i.
So there's some, plus you got young blokes like MG's young bloke. I think they've brought him on nice and slow. I reckon he's got a bit of talent, MG's young bloke. He'll feature a lot more come season 2025. What about on the beaten side? The Storm, I think obviously played injured Munster most of the season. He sort of only had that 1 or 2 good games at the back end where
Yeah.
we saw the best of Munster. He was playing a bit busted. I thought he ran the ball too much instead of trying. I think the only mismatch they had out there was trying to put the cross ball out to the big wingers they had over the top of the smaller wingers in Penrith. They didn't really utilise it properly. They weren't able to
Well, at 9,
execute that play.
at 9 as well, Harry Grant in this final series has been unbelievable.
He's been
and
good.
He
Yeah.
was probably their best player, to
I
be
picked him
honest.
to win the Clive Churchill. I thought if they win, he would have his hands all over it. Scored the first try, wasn't a lot on. He beat 2 of the best players on the field, Jane Fisher-Harris and Liam Martin to score.
Yeah.
But the best player for Melbourne Storm, in my opinion, was the Katoa on the right side. He was just dynamic.
Yeah, he was
What
outstanding.
a player he is.
And he's another big improver throughout the whole season. He's been outstanding, hasn't he? Katoa, unbelievable work rate. His effort on effort plays are just outstanding. And yeah, like you said, chaps, I thought Coates was really good as well, bringing the ball back. He had to be because Penrith kicking game was outstanding. You'll put the ball where they want it and ball in play for 33, 34 minutes in the first half. Outstanding.
Yeah, insane. It was such a great grand final. Definitely one of the better grand finals we've seen. And I don't know if it tops last year, but it's certainly close.
Well, the football purists would have loved that one more than any game. It was like an Origin game, but as far as exciting at the end, there was no pull your pants down at the end and get beat or anything like that. They kept trying, they kept swinging. Any other side in the competition, if the Roosters were in the grand final with Penrith, I'm calling 50-0 that scoreboard.
Yeah.
That's how far apart Melbourne and Penrith are to the rest of the competition.
But you know what? I would. You talked about Melbourne and Penrith being ahead as well. I think it's the reverse as well. Where if it was Melbourne and someone else, I reckon Melbourne beat anyone else on that day by 52.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just with how relentless Penrith were with their defence and obviously just in attack as well, just keeping the ball in their hands.
Well, it showed basically throughout the season how far they were ahead of everyone else, wasn't it? That them two particular teams, especially come through the final series, they dominated all their games. I mean, the Cronulla Penrith grand final qualifier was a little bit close, but Penrith were always going to win. And they were two worthy teams playing in the grand final because they were the two best teams throughout the year. And just outstanding. And the beauty about Penrith winning 4 grand finals, all of them were different. Not one of them were, just the same type of game. I mean, we nearly beat them. The intercept pass and Reno, missing that goal, we could have beat them. The Broncos had the hands on the trophy just about.
Did they what? Yeah.
And the one just gone, there was just a dominant performance, and credit to them. I love watching them play. I love Melbourne as well because they're so good at their craft and good at what they do, and it's just
They
pretty to watch.
Just don't deviate from the game plan. Like I think it was 14 minutes before they put a set play on. They just went 2 passes up the middle, 2 passes wide, turn them under, kick on the last.
Yeah.
Line speed, kick, chase, kick. They just kept going and going and going until they finally ran it on the last with Cleary about 14 minutes out from the start of the contest.
They completed high, and I reckon just about 4 out of 6 tackles, the middles had to make a tackle.
Yeah.
So
brilliant game.
Great game plan.
Capped off a massive season, but not for our club. We didn't have the greatest season. We finished 16th, and we might just do a little review just as to where you think we can improve. And there's probably a lot of areas there. And where do you think we went wrong there, Brownie?
Well, look, chaps, to be honest with you, we're well off the pace compared to the two teams that we just spoke about. There was a lot of talk throughout the year that we weren't fit. We were, basically a slow team, which, in my opinion, I think the same. I think we weren't fit. We were slow. We looked tired. We lost our coach, pretty much halfway through the year, and we just weren't performing. We weren't playing with confidence, and it was a pretty disappointing season. We found a little bit of starch, once JD got the sack, and we made a couple of positional changes. Cody went to half, and Jack went to 5'8", and we got a little bit of spark in our game, but we were getting beat on the ruck. We couldn't get on side. We just looked tired and we looked slow. And I think we've got to improve in them areas for us to be competitive next year. And look, I'm sure Wayne will do the review, even though he wasn't our coach this year. I'm sure he'll be having a look at them areas and
Yep.
trying to correct them early on.
And I know he's had a talk to a few boys as well, just about his expectations next year. I know he's had a big talk to the team. Obviously Latrell, and watching him at the Levels Golf Day, some of the clips of that, he looks fit. Latrell
Yeah.
Mitchell, he looks ready to go. So I'm excited about that. But just talking about the discipline, you sort of touched on it, Brownie, but points conceded, we were third in the competition for the most points conceded with an average of 28 points per game conceded. Missed tackles, we were fourth for 37.5 tackles missed per game. And then penalties, we were fifth as well for the 5.8 penalties conceded per game. Sin bins, 12 for the season. That's second below the Tigers.
It felt like we had a sim in every week there at one stage. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, look, it started. I thought we'd come in limping into the season. We didn't look fit and rock hard. We didn't look fast. We lost the ruck speed just about every game the first 10 or 12 weeks. They changed a few things up when JD was shown the door, and we went on a 5-game winning streak. But admittedly, we beat Parramatta twice. They weren't much of a side, Parramatta. We beat Manly with nearly all their players out. That was a grindy old game where there was a couple of debuts. But look, and we sort of ran out of puff at the back end. But I thought Benny Ormby did the best he could with what he had. And he was starting on the back foot in terms of fitness and health. And they got a little bit quicker in a few areas. Nice to see Tai come back and finish the season in first grade. Look, there was a few shining lights. I thought Keon Kalomatangi playing lock which is a bit of a different look for us to see him there. He was just about the best forward in the competition there for a 4 or 5 week
It
period.
was, yeah.
Look, Cam doesn't stop trying all year, but he was plagued with injury in and out, some rep duties, and it just wasn't
Look,
our game.
when
We know Cody keeps swinging; he
Mm.
doesn't stop, and he took about 10, 12 weeks to get fit because he cannot put his hand up when he's injured. He plays hurt all the time. He came in with a calf injury and sort of. I don't reckon he was ready to go till 10, 12 weeks into the season. He started to hit his straps a little bit.
Yeah, and like you said, chaps, it was a lot of disappointments there. There was a couple of little positives, but not too many. And look, when you run second last and 2 points away from the wooden spoon, only one win away, you're going to have a lot of disappointment, both from a team's perspective and both individually. And I'm sure all the players wouldn't have been happy with their performances. The team as a whole was a failure in terms of the season, and we need to get better. There's been a lot of reports out there over the last couple of weeks where people are concerned and frustrated with their performances, and the players are the ones that have got to turn it around, and we've got to start November 1.
What about Jack Whiten's performance, Big Les? I think he was a bit of a shining light. He had a real crack out there.
Him and Cody Walker, I thought, were great all year. I thought that they were probably the two more consistent players throughout the season. Cody just puts in 110% for us all the time, and Jack Whiten does the same. He was outstanding this year, particularly when he moved into the 6. I thought that was probably his best little period there. Just so tough and just willing to put in every inch, making the big plays, trying to get into second phase. That's just who Jack Whiten is, and that toughness is a big reason as to why we had that 5-game winning streak there as well. But towards the last 3 sort of rounds of the competition, Knights, Panthers, Roosters, I thought that he stood up in the games that he did play as well, and obviously when Cody came back, we started to look a little bit better in those last 3 games. So I guess it's a positive with how we ended the year.
Oh, he was definitely a positive. George Pickens medalist. You don't get them for not having a go throughout the year. And like you said, Les, he just busted his ass week in, week out, and you can see that the way he plays the game. Very experienced player. The only concern I've got of him winning the George Pickens medalist, the last 2 that have won it, Junior Totola hasn't played many games since he won it.
Hang on, Brownie, get down, mate.
Campbell Graham, another one.
Well, they're 2 off-season signings for next year. They've hardly played.
But look, and they're 2 players that we really need back, man. We're going to look forward to them coming back next year in 2025. But Jack Whiten, outstanding. And along with Cody, I thought they combined really well when they went 6 and 7. Whether that's going to be the combination moving forward, I don't know. But, they did the job, and, they could hold their head high.
What are you thinking for the combination next year for the halves?
Oh, chaps, I think Dodd will get his opportunity. They haven't brought him for no reason. And look, Wayne, we said it before, Wayne wasn't the coach, but I'd like to think that Wayne had some sort of input of him coming to the Rabbitohs.
Yeah.
I know I was talking to a mate of mine who's got a very good football brain. He said this kid goes all right. He watched a lot of him play
Yeah.
when he played for St Helens, and he's got a good kicking game. And the thing about it, he likes to get his hands on the ball, and
Yeah.
that's what you want from your halfback. Look at some of the good halfbacks; so they want to touch the ball,
It's 3
3 and
quick
4
over that
times.
10 or 12 metres, but you
Yeah.
want your halves if they get an opportunity, lazy forward, get themselves in the backfield, and we got players that can do the rest. You know what I mean? And I like to see Cody parked on that left hand side again. I know he put his hand up unselfishly and played on the opposite side of the field, but I think he plays his best footy on the left when he gets his opportunities. Yeah, I think they'll start with that, but I think Humphries is definitely going to be in the mix here for a halves
Yeah.
position.
Even hooker, to be honest. He'll probably get one of those jerseys, throughout the season, if not at the start. You talk about the hooker position, I am worried losing Damien Cook. I
Yeah,
think it's a huge loss for us next year.
it is. You can't replace a player of that experience, that attitude, that fitness level that he brings to the table every week. And there's not too many Damien Cooks in your reserve grade. So,
Yeah.
look, Pete Mamazoulis will get an opportunity to prove that he's the number one man. But South will have a few options up their sleeve.
Well, it is
Come round one.
it is an area of concern, isn't it, chaps? He's a state of origin player, represented Australia at the highest level. So, and like you said, he's a very experienced and more importantly, he's so professional off the field.
Oh, he is.
So you're losing a lot, not only on the field but off the field. But Peter Mamazoulis will get his opportunity, and like you said, Big Les, Humphries might be pushing, for a number 9 spot as well. So, yeah, it'd be very interesting over the course of the off season, pre-season, leading into the trials, Charity Shield, and
Mm.
see which way Wayne goes.
I tell you what, I would have liked to have seen Pete get some more minutes towards the back end of the year. If he's going to be the plan for next year, should have probably gotten a few more minutes there towards the
Oh,
back
for
end of the year.
sure. I mean, yeah, I thought there was a few players that should have got more minutes. But look, I might pose a question to you two blokes. Who was the most improved player in our team as a young bloke, and who's
Yeah.
got some work to do next year after what you've seen this year?
Oh, look, it's most improved. I think there was a couple that improved from their performances last year. Davey Mawali, I thought, had a really good season, one of his best seasons since making his debut in 2021. He reached his 50-game milestone at only the age of 21. He's still 21, believe it or not, playing front row in the NRL,
Yeah.
50
Yep.
games. Now, I thought he played big minutes. He played longer minutes.
Yep.
I thought his carries were better than the year before. I thought his contact was better than the year before. So I think he's a player on the up, and he's just getting better and better and better every year. I think he played 22 games this year and only 2 from the bench. So he started 20 games.
Yeah.
The year before, he played 17 and only started probably 5.
Yeah.
So it's just been a big turnaround, and he's still just learning his craft, especially being in the middle. I thought his energy was a lot better.
Yeah.
I thought Davey Mawali was probably one of the big improvers.
Yep.
And look, we all, Jai Gray is on everyone's lips. The way he played the game. He made his debut this year. Was it, chaps, this year? Or
Yeah,
did he
yeah,
play the
yeah.
game
Well, yeah,
the
we
year
had
before?
6 debuts this year. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he was one of them. David Wiley, outstanding. I think he debuted. He sort of started in round 9 and started the rest of the season in the front row. So
Yeah.
he'd be someone to put his hand up to try and start in round 1. Big
Mm.
Leslie, you got any thoughts on who's got some work to do, or who was the biggest improver?
Well, for me, I don't know how this guy's not signed for another club or at least with us for next year, but Tane Milne.
Mm.
I thought he was probably one
Mate,
of
he
our
had he
best.
had a massive year, Tano.
Yeah, one of our
It's
best players.
huge. Obviously not talked about a lot going into this season, and we didn't know if he was going to be in that starting 17 for the year. Obviously, a few injuries allowed him for him to sort of sneak in there, and I think every game he's played, bar maybe the first one or two, have just been at 100 miles an hour. He runs 200 meters most games. Just hard work out of his own end. The journey that he's been on over the past 2 years as well to get where he is, it's just so, it's so good to watch as a South fan, particularly when we've had all of those injuries, for him to do what he did this season for this club, I think is huge, and I think it's gone extremely unnoticed.
He's a tough bastard, isn't he? Like, I mean, how many times did you see him take a carry 2 metres out and no
Yeah.
one was anywhere near the
Yeah.
joint? So, yeah, look, I mean, I think my information is they offered him a contract, a top 30 contract for next year a few months ago, and he knocked it back to test the open market. He thought he
Yeah.
was playing well enough, and there just wasn't any bites out there from any other NRL club. So, I don't know if he comes back at all. I don't know if the offer's still there.
Okay.
Oh,
So he might be going to England then.
yeah,
I'd say.
well, I feel for Tane because, like you said, Les, he was probably one of our best players. There was a number of weeks there where we gave him our brick by brick awards,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
the Ramos brick by brick award, and he was really, really strong and powerful, and like you said, his tough carries and set up some tries, and but came up with a few errors, but so did everyone else. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I really feel for Tane. He's doing a lot of great work off the field as well, which is helping his game on the field, and
Yep.
it's a credit to Tane. And I hope he gets to start somewhere because he really deserves it.
He
Really looking
does.
forward to him watching him in the Pacific Championships as well,
Well,
with Fiji.
they
If he
also
can,
haven't re-signed Gagai either. So, like, Jacob Gagai and him are both unsigned at the club next year. Surely one of those two gets an opportunity in the top 30 or a train and trial or something like that. Look, he was the only one that led a positive attacking stat for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. He led the offloads for the NRL.
I don't want to put the gun to head, boys, but if you have to pick one, who are you picking to re-sign?
jeez,
Just that's a tough one.
that is a tough one. Both they're two different players.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Tane loves the tough carries, comes in
Yeah.
and gets you good yards and gets the sets rolling forward. Where Gagai's probably got a little bit more speed and he's a bit more of a finisher.
Yeah.
But Tane scores a lot of tries himself. I don't know. I can't pick it. I'm
No.
sitting on the fence.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I don't know what to pick, but Tane, the thing
I'm going to go
about
Tane because I know Tane personally.
Yeah.
But it's a 50-50 call.
Yeah, for me as well. I think that what puts Tane a little bit ahead is the fact that he has a lot of versatility, especially in his World Cup, games for Fiji as
Yep.
well, playing in the forwards.
Playing off the bench tomorrow night, is he?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that sort of puts him a little bit ahead of Jacob Gagai, but we could even just chuck him into this list as well for most improved. Fuck, he's had a year.
Yeah, he certainly
Yeah,
has.
for sure. Anyway, what about a player who's got a bit of work to do? I'm going to say Jacob Host. I think he's got a bit of work to do. Hosty, he started the season pretty strong, I thought, over in Vegas and that at the start of the season. And he just didn't have that aggression at the back end of the year. I know he had a lot of injuries, but he's someone I think he's got a bit of work to do, Brownie, to work his way back into that 17 start in 2025.
Yeah, we're starting to get a few edge back rowers into the system now, aren't we? I mean, we've got Josh Schuster, who we've signed, who can play edge back rower, and I'm pretty sure that's where Wayne will be looking to play him. You've got young Thomas Fletcher, who's coming through as a back rower. You've got Benny Lovett. Cameron Murray can play on edge. Jai Arrow can play on an edge. So, look, there's a bit of competition there now for the edge back rowers with a couple of signings, and that's always healthy. And like you said, chaps, he's played with a little bit of injury over the last couple of seasons, and he'd be probably first one to put his hand up to say his form wasn't great throughout the year.
Yep.
But yeah, he's probably a player that's got a little bit of work to do to get a spot in the starting 17 if everyone is fully fit.
Yep.
What about you, mate?
I've got two. I want to be a bit greedy. The first one for me is Lachlan Elias. I think if he wants a spot in the 17, he's got to do a lot of work, particularly if he's going to be that utility that Wayne Bennett's apparently spoke to him about, being a bit of a hooker / utility there at 14 for the Rabbitohs. If that's the role that he's going to play, definitely got to do a lot of work to get that sorted.
In terms of the work, you mean fitness and get himself back right?
Just getting him back right, but also if he does get thrown into the deep end and gets chucked into a 7 jersey as well, his form's just got to go to that next level. He's got to be the guy, I think that the issue with Ilias when he's been in that 7 jersey has been he hasn't been vocal enough as a 7. He hasn't been that leader. He's definitely got to be that if he goes into the halves.
If they play him 14, I don't think they'll be looking at playing him 7. I think it'll be around that middle forward, playing number 9, like we just spoke about. And I think he's a perfect 14, to be honest with you, because he can play 7 at a pinch. And he did a good job at 7. He goes into the line. He's a great defender. And obviously, Wayne coming to the club is going to benefit. A lot of players are going to benefit from Wayne coming to the club. and I reckon he'll be one of them.
And I know I'll tell you another one, Sean Keppie.